What I'm doing today, welcome into the channel. We are going to be going over the last deck that I used in my last video. If you haven't done so yet, check out that video. It'll be down in the description below. I use a Hera deck against my friend's Krennic deck, and I just want to kind of give my thoughts about the deck, and also give an update of my deck list. This is in no way going to be like the final deck list for the first set, right? There are more cards going to be coming out, more Spectre units going to be coming out, so this deck list will probably change a ton. But I want to kind of give you guys the idea of what I was thinking when building this deck, like initially, and then after playing, kind of give an updated version. And obviously my deck list is in no way the best deck list, but it's just kind of how I'm playing the deck at the moment. And I think that there obviously is room for improvement. And I also think that as more cards come out, the deck list will probably change completely. But obviously I'm playing Hera. She has the ability to ignore aspect penalties on Spectre cards that you play, so that's really good. It gives me the ability to play Kanan and Sabine in this deck without having to pay that 2 resource cost penalty, so that's pretty good. Also on attack, you may give an experience token to another unique unit. That's really good. So whenever I attack, I get to add, whether it be to Ezra, Leia, Kanan, etc. Every time I attack, I get to give him a +1/+1. That's always really good. And especially like, if you start to like ramp up like with the Rebel engine in this deck, and I'll kind of go over that as we go on with Hera, you can make some really crazy units. And people looking at the initial thought here, right? You look at this list and like, where's Sabine? I slept on Sabine. I'm not gonna lie. In my new updated version, I'm playing Sabine. Sabine is crazy. There's no reason that she shouldn't have been in the original deck list. But I'll kind of go over what I have right here, and then I'll go over the changes that I made. Starting off with Emeral Akar, right? It has the ability that when played, you can go ahead and deal damage to your opposing ground units equal to the number of ground units that you have when played, right? So you can go ahead and play an Emeral Akar. If you have 2 other units, you can ping another ground unit for 3 damage. That's pretty good. Also has Restore 1. 3 cost, I mean, not 3. 3 play, like playing 3 of them, that's too much. In my opinion, I think 2 is enough for Emeral Akar. I just can't justify playing 3 of for unique units at the moment, mainly because I need to kind of play the game more and kind of see which ones do that. There is one unit that I kind of feel like 3 of is a must for a unique unit, and I'll kind of explain that as I go down. But Bright's Hope, that is a vehicle, space vehicle. It has Sentinel, which is good. Also has the ability that when it's played, you get to like return a friendly non-leader unit back to your hand, right? I believe it has to be a ground unit too. But so you play that, and you can take Emeral Akar back to your hand, and then you can play it again, possibly that turn or the next turn, right? So you can ping something else for another 3 damage if you still have those 3 ground units down on the field, or if at that point you have more, you can just play that, get Emeral Akar, pull it back to your hand, boom. There are other cards that you can kind of play around with that, but I'll kind of go over that as we go on through the video there. But having a Sentinel in space is good. Also, the ability to grab a ground unit back, especially if it has like damage on it and you kind of want to not lose it. Obviously you can't bring Hera back because Hera's the leader, but like if you have something that you want to, like if something has like 3 damage, it has 4 HP, you can bring it back to your hand if you don't want to lose it, and then you can play it, and then you can kind of save it and keep using it, right? So that's pretty cool. Wedge Antilles gives your vehicle units +1/+1 and also ambush, which is pretty cool. So it works well with the vehicles. I think that I'm kind of light on vehicles. I'm still going to test more things, but the +1/+1 on vehicles and giving them ambush, you're able to play your vehicles and attack when you play them. That's pretty good, especially if they're boosted up. You don't have to worry about like losing it as well. Now, Home 1, the Alliance like flagship, right? It has Restore 2. That's good, right? When you attack with it, you get Restore 2, you heal 2 on your base. I was wrong in my video, obviously, right? Restore says you have to heal the damage. If your base doesn't have any damage on it, you can't go over the amount. That's my bad, right? We're still learning here. It is what it is. But also, not only that, though, it gives all your other units Restore 1. So if you have, and what I want to do with this deck is flood the board with Rebels, right? And if you have that on the board and you have 5 ground units on the board, and you're pinging your opponent with a bunch of things, or getting rid of their other units as well, but each one of them have Restore, and so you have 5 ground units at that point. Let's just example, like hypothetical, I mean, uh, you're restoring 5 while also taking out like his units or damage on his base. Home 1 gives you the ability to kind of like stabilize yourself if things are kind of getting hectic. So definitely a good card. Ancient Callus, it has ambush. In this deck, it's not needed. I ended up cutting it. It's not a bad card because when another unique unit is defeated, you may draw a card, and draw power is always really good. But I do think in my new list, I don't think that Ancient Callus was needed, and so I scrapped him. Again, people might think that Ancient Callus is really good because again, draw power, especially late game, when you get to that point when maybe you emptied out your hand, and like it gets to the point where you kind of are playing one card a turn and then kind of playing the mind games. That's where like the passing and holding on to the card, like holding on to your cards and grabbing the initiative early for next turn. If you know that you can kind of survive, just kind of do your attacks and do whatever. But that draw power, people will see that it is important, especially late game. But I just, for this deck, and I'll explain a little bit more in detail as I go on, I just didn't think Ancient Callus was really needed, so I actually ended up scrapping him. Layer Organa is currently the only unique character card that I'm going to be playing 3 of in my updated list still. It is so good. On play, you can ready a resource, or you can exhaust a unit, right? It's so versatile in the fact that early game, right, you play it, you like, I would say like the most optimal way to use it early on is like turn 3 and you have another 2-cost unit in hand, right? So you play Leia, you ready up one of those units, so you play Leia for 1, and then you play your second 2-cost unit, and then you're getting 2 units for like of 2 cost for 3, or even if you have an R2D2, right? You can ready up on turn 1. Like that's a really good turn 1. You go ahead, you play Leia, and then you ready up the resource, and then you play R2D2 for 1. That's pretty good value. And then when it comes to the late game, when if your opponent has established a scary board and you kind of need to make sure that you like don't die, you play it and you exhaust one of the units. It's like a defensive measure. Like it's just so good of a card, and I think playing 3 of it is justified mainly because it's only a 2-cost, and like if you have a layout on the board from last turn, swing into someone, do the damage on it, and play another one. Maybe it's not ideal, but maybe they take out the Leia at some point, and then you play it. Like it's just, I think a 3 of for it is just really good, just because of the ability, and it can help you in multiple ways. I just think it's very, very good. If you don't agree, let me know. I kind of want to hear what you guys think of my deck list as well. I like to take other people's like ideas and like kind of go from what they're telling me. Like, oh, like, you know, I got a couple comments in my last video and they were like, where's Sabine? And I was like, yeah, after the video, I realized Sabine is crazy. And then I added Sabine because it is really good. But going on here, right, Ezra is interesting because like most other cards, at least as far as like their abilities as when attacking, you have to complete the attack. And then after the attack is completed, you get to, like, I think it's look at the top card of your deck, and you can either, you can play it, you can discard it, or you can leave it. So if you don't have the means to play it and you still want to keep it, just keep it on your deck. If you end up, like not wanting it at all, like it doesn't serve you any purpose and you just need to get rid of it, boom, discard it. If you have the resources to play it from the top of your deck, go ahead and play it from the top of your deck. This is really good, and I'll kind of go over why it's good in this deck, because I play a lot of like non-unique units, and it could potentially allow me to play a card. Like I play Ezra, I attack with Ezra to start my turn, right? I look at the top card of my deck, and then I get to keep my cards in my hand and play a card. And that's just good value because you're not losing a card from hand. You're essentially drawing the card and playing it right away. So you're not wasting an action to do so. It's just really good value in my opinion. And so I think Ezra at a 2 is really good. I don't know if I would bump it up to 3, but for right now, 2's been pretty good, right? And then kind of going further, you're looking at the heroic cards. They're kind of like the staple of this deck and why why I played like the Rebel engine. The Alliance X-Wing, it's just a 2-drop X-Wing, right? It's pretty good, just because, again, it is a 2-drop, and it's 2/3. But now you're getting into the other cards, right? You get your Wing Leader, and I think Wing Leader is probably one of, if not the most important card in this deck. It is a 3 cost, but when you play it, you get to give out 2 experience out to your units, right? So you can go ahead, and they have to be Rebel units, which is why I specified on the Rebel engine. But go ahead and you play Wing Leader. You go ahead and give one of your Rebel units +2/+2, and you're just beefing up your unit. You get to have another space unit, and it's +2/+2. So that's really good. And then you go ahead and, if you have enough resources, especially on that turn, you go ahead and you play Fleet Lieutenant. You give +2/+0 to that Rebel unit, and then you're attacking. And essentially, you get one of your Rebel units up to +4/+2 for the turn. You get to use Fleet Lieutenant as like a played card, and then using that ability to attack without using the action to attack. So you're getting to play and attack in one action. That card is now boosted up +4/+2 plus what it initially had. You can do some crazy damage really fast. It also might give you the ability to kind of hold on when you want to kind of take out an opposing unit. I'll kind of use this as an example, right? Let's just say I have 6 resources, right? And that's just because this is what you need to play Hera out from the leader side, right? So you have 6 resources, you play Hera. That's your action. Then in your next action, you go ahead and you play Wing Leader. You give Hera +2/+2. So now she's sitting there, and she's a 6/8. I can't do math. She's a 6/8. You then play Fleet Lieutenant, and she's an 8/8, right? And you get to attack with her. You can either attack a base for 8 damage, and that's essentially almost 1/3 of someone's HP if they're playing a 30 HP base, or if they're playing a 25 HP base, that is, massive damage. Or you can ping something. If they have something that hasn't been boosted yet, majority of the cards will not survive an 8/8, and you will survive most hits as an 8/8. Okay? Yeah, you're going to be taking a lot of damage, but you can give more experience out later on, stuff like that, make sure Hera stays alive and stuff like that. But again, that's just like one of the combos, and you saw in the video that I got to use Wing Leader with Hera, and it was too much for my opponent to really kind of slow her down. So that was really good. Another thing to kind of add there is General Dodona. I don't know if I'm saying it right. If I'm not, it is what it is. I am terrible with names, and you would think as a teacher I would be okay with names, but it gets even worse when I'm, calling out students' names. That is what it is. But you're looking at that card, and when it's on the field, other friendly units that have Rebel get +1/+1. So I had Hera on the board. I played Wing Leader. I got the +2/+2 on it, and then I played that, and so it essentially got +3/+3, and Hera became like almost invincible. I forgot to give the experience when attacking to General Dodona, and it is what it is in that video. But again, make sure that you remember that when you attack with Hera, you give a +1/+1 to your other unique units. That's part of the ramping up part of this deck, and that's why I really like the character. I have Kanan in the deck. Kanan, I haven't yet to use it, not gonna lie, but I like Kanan because on attack, right, you get to discard 1 card from the opposing player, right? For each friendly Spectre unit I have. So if I end up having Sabine, Ezra, Hera, and Kanan, they're discarding 4. You heal HP based on the amount of aspects amongst those cards. So that's pretty good. It's another way to heal. And it's just, it's okay. It's a 4/5, so that's pretty good. I just haven't really used it much. It usually becomes a resource for me, I'm not gonna lie. But, down the line, it might be serviceable when the time comes, because I might need to heal something off. And if I have the board already set up with a bunch of Rebels, Spectre units, it could really help out. So now we're going to go over to the events. I'm going to kind of go through them quickly because they're the same events that I have in my deck list for the most part, but in different amounts. All right, so now getting into the events, we have Recruit. You search your top 5 cards of your deck, and you can take a unit from that and put it into your hand. So it's good in the sense that you're playing a card and you're drawing a card, so you're not losing like the amount of cards in your hand really. But I play a decent amount of units, and I feel like recruit. It wasn't bad when I did play it, but I don't think I needed that two of. I think in like a dire situation, if I have it in my hand, one of is might be fine. I like to kind of keep my deck list kind of low on cards, closer to that 50 number, just so I can draw what I need and what I want. More often, resupply is one of the best cards in the game because you get to, right, for 3, basically just get another resource. You can play that as early as turn 2. You'll have 4, and then on turn 4 you'll have 5 resources, and you're ahead in the resource gaining battle, which is pretty good because then you can play stronger cards faster than your opponent. I ended up dropping it down to 2. I didn't think 3 was really necessary because I play a lot of low-cost cards, and so late game, for some of the combos, I don't need to keep adding every single turn, so I dropped that down to 2. Prepare for takeoff. I actually ended up raising this up to 2, and maybe I'll go over this as I show the next deck list. So prepare for takeoff is really good because it allows you to search the top 8 cards of your deck, and you get to add 2 vehicles to your hand, so you get to really add to your hand size because you're playing 1 card, you're gaining 2 cards, and also if in those 8 cards you have 2 vehicles, it allows you to kind of play in space, which I feel like I didn't really get to do a lot of in a lot of my battles, so I ended up raising this. Shoot first, very good card. You play, if you take out your opponent, you don't take any damage. This is very good with the Rebel ramp engine when you're kind of giving experience to all your guys, and your guys are jumping up to like +3/+3, and they have 7 power, they have like 8 power, right? And you go ahead and you play shoot first, and you take out a unit, you don't take any damage, and then you're still sitting there full HP. Very, very good card. Asteroid Sanctuary, also a very good card. You play it, you exhaust one of your opponent's units, and then you give a shield to one of your units, which is also really good because then it prevents them from taking damage for a turn. Very, very good. Waylay. I like to use Waylay when obviously they play something big, but like especially if their unit has a shield on it or if it has Sentinel, right? The big part of this deck is to get really big and maybe get big chunks on the base at once. And if they play a Sentinel card, you can't hit the base, or like, so I like to use Waylay on a Sentinel. Or if, again, in the last video, my opponent had put a shield on one of their units, and immediately after putting a shield on their unit, I played Waylay. Boom, that unit went right back to their hand. I didn't have to worry about the shield, and it kind of set them back a turn, and I was able to kind of take advantage from there. So those are 2 ways that I like to use that card. Change of Heart is really good, especially, well, obviously it has to be late game. It's a 6 cost card, but you can take a non-leader unit and onto your side for the turn. So let's just say, especially in this deck, let's say I get a resupply kind of early, right? As early as turn 5, or maybe even if I get 2 resupplies out there as early as turn 4. Well, no, because then I still have to. So as early as turn 5, you can kind of play this, take control of your opponent. So what I like to do is take control of my opponent's unit and swing at his other unit and kind of blow them up. This way, they're losing 2 units, and I get to kind of, do my thing. So it's definitely a lot better. Surprise Strike is pretty good. It allows you to attack using that card. So you get to play this card and attack in one action, which is really good. And you get +3/+0. So on your attack, you get to get +3. It's really good for maybe like the last strike on a base is pretty good. Also, just being able to get big enough to take out maybe an enemy leader or a really strong card that your opponent has. It's just really good. +3 is just really strong. And then You Are My Only Hope. That's a really, really good card. So one of the things I tried to focus with on this deck is kind of keeping my card cost very low, mainly for this card. So I only have 1 card in this deck that can't be played with You Are My Only Hope for free, because when you play You Are My Only Hope, you reduce the cost of the card that you draw on the top by 5, right? And everything in the deck costs 5, except for Home 1, I believe costs 8. So then I would still have to pay 3 to play that card, right? Unless I have less than 5 HP, and then I can play Home 1. Imagine that, though. I had a game where I had Ezra. I used Ezra. I attacked with Ezra to start my turn. I got You Are My Only Hope, and then I got to play You Are My Only Hope off of his attack. Sadly, it was into a Leia, who I already had on the field, so that feels bad. But like the possibilities of getting right? Imagine you're at 5 HP. You attack with Ezra. You get You're My Only Hope. You play that for 3. And then you get home 1 and get to play that for free on that same turn. Everyone on your field gets Restore. And then hopefully your opponent can't take you out with an attack on that, right, with your 5 HP. And then you kind of just start pinging off his guys that are still up. And then you start restoring your HP. And then that's how you kind of get into the game. Like, that's one of those combos that are that combo late game is like absurd and crazy. And, and even if you don't have less than 5 HP, even that, like, getting the home 1 for 3 is really good. So that's my deck list that I used in the video, but now I'm going to kind of move over to my updated deck list and kind of explain why I kind of added in the cards that I did. So I ended up adding in Sabine Wren, obviously. I'm going to kind of show you here. Sabine Wren is a rebel. When attacking, it gets to do 1 damage to something. So that's really good. If you have 3 or more aspects on the field, you can't attack Sabine Wren. So that's really good. So what happens is you kind of get out all your aspects. Because all you really have to do is get out Sabine Wren and like one of your command guys. And then no one can attack Sabine Wren. Right? And then you're kind of sitting there, and then you're using your other cards to kind of boost up her. So you have Sabine Wren. You have, let's just say, Ezra, right? Just to put someone on. Then you start playing fleet lieutenants and wing leaders and General Dodona, and you're just kind of boosting her up to a point where, like, by the time they get rid of all your other units to start attacking her, she's already at that point where she's just like crazy strong. Every time she attacks, she pings something for 1 damage on a defender or a base. So like that's really good. And so me not playing it in my initial deck list was pretty dumb. I also added 3 rogue operatives. The reason I did this, again, it's another rebel. Okay. It has raid 2, so when it attacks, it gets +2. So that's really good. And then I get the Saboteur ability. In this deck, again, it has that ability to ramp up rebels. If I have this on the field and I start ramping that up, I don't have to worry about other people's shields or sentinels. And it's not a unique unit, so I can play more than 1 on the field at once. So that's why I kind of felt like Rogue Operative was really good. And I felt like I kind of wanted to try it out, see how it worked in the deck. I dropped Recruit down to 1. I added a Prepare for Takeoff. I took away 1 resupply. I might add it back. I might take away the Tactical Advantage and put in another resupply. That's probably where I'm going to take that back. Tactical Advantage is kind of like, because it's a 1 cost, I kind of felt like in a pinch, maybe it'll be really good, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm not really sold on it. I think I might go back and put in the other resupply. But again, kept Shoot First and Asteroid Sanctuary the same at 3. I think those 2 cards are really, really good. Surprise Strike at 2. I think that's really good for what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be, for me, late game to kind of, especially if I have the 2 of them in my hand late game in the last turn, I can add +6 total in a turn of attacking someone's base. And that can be like the difference. So I like to keep that at 2. Sometimes like 3 wouldn't be terrible because, again, getting that extra 3 damage on something. But I think that 2 served its purpose for me. Waylay at 2. Again, another card that can probably go up to 3, but I like to keep my decks closer to that 50 mark. And 2 Waylay seems pretty good. The more I think about it, though, maybe I go Tactical Advantage, take it out, right? We don't really need Tactical Advantage because there are other ways to gain attack through my units. And I go ahead and I add 1 more Waylay. I think the ability to get rid of someone else's unit for 3 is really valuable. So take away Tactical Advantage and throw in another Waylay. Then you have Change of Heart. I think 2 of them is good. It's a 6 cost, so because it is a lot, like early game, I often use it as a resource, and then I have 1 that I draw later on that I can kind of use. And that's kind of how I like to use it. And then You're My Only Hope at 2. You can justify putting it at 3. Because it is a 3 cost, and then you get to take away 5 costs from the top card of your deck. But the issue is if you whiff, it just doesn't work, right? So when you draw You're on My Only Hope and you draw a unique unit you already have in the field, you're kind of screwed, right? You can't really do anything with it. So that's why I kind of left it at 2. And those are kind of like my big like thoughts about the deck. The main focus of the deck is to use low cost units, boost them up with your other units and other cards from events, and kind of get big, swing into base, or make sure your opponent can't get any units on the field. Once this deck gets going, it's really hard to kind of stop it because every card kind of plays off each other because of how many rebels there are in the deck. I also didn't talk about the Star Viper. It was I probably should have. It's another space unit. It has Restore 2 if you have the initiative. You saw it in the video. I was able to attack, and every time my opponent attacked for 2, the next turn I had initiative, I would just heal it right off. So it's pretty good because you get to restore those 2 as you kind of go. But that's kind of what I'm working with. Obviously, this is in no way the final deck list for set 1 Hera deck. I'm going to keep on working on it, and I'm sure I'm going to use it in another video when it comes to going up against my friends. And I'll do another one of these with that updated deck list, and kind of go through. Every deck list that I do is probably not going to have like, oh, this is what I switched, but because I'm probably going to be playing Hera, I made a second deck list almost right away. And again, as we go on with the deck list, I'll just kind of like talk about what I would change, but not make another deck list right away. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in. The support for the last video was very, very good. I really appreciate all the support, all the comments. I'm going to reply to everyone. I'm going to read them all, obviously. And if you have any thoughts about the deck list, I want to hear it because I'm still kind of learning the game, and I want to take in as much as possible as I'm kind of going through. I'm just having a ton of fun with the game, and I hope you guys are too. And I'll see you guys on the next video.